If we look at last week overall, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ really had a monster week. And then you kind of end up on Friday with a pretty nasty slip and fall, dare I say. SPY, we talked about it, dipped down to basically 599, around a 10-11 point drop from those local highs, right? And that's kind of where we're at going into this week. Now, I'm going to give you my viewpoint of what to expect, what to be looking for going into the next 24 hours of market open, and how to be preparing for this as well. I have a few names on the downside that I'm watching, and then names also for the upside, because we have big earnings as well coming in on this week. We have mid caps that are taking massive hits, and there's a lot of things we have to track. So this video is broad based. It's not over one specific thing. So let's jump right into it. Now, first of all, I want to talk about SPY, what we look for here. Now, SPY, and again, when you look at the SPY chart, again, I think it was just very impressive overall. You can see previous all-time highs here. Basically, this range where we sat, we made a new all-time high, then obviously broke back down. You can see that really nice break and retest as well of that. So you get the break, retest, continuation back. Picture perfect, dare I say, right? And so you had that type of downside coming into Friday from Thursday, and then you go into something like QQQ as well. And I don't think these give you the most information, but again, I'm going to slowly break this down for you guys as well. You can kind of see the local high that you kind of put in here, almost a double top, dare I say. But again, for that to be confirmed as a double top, you'd have to break that neckline down here, which is 499. So we're far away from that. But again, this is what a lot of people are looking at, what's happening there. Now, really quickly, I want to go look at futures just for a second to give you a visual, because I think this gives you the best look of what's kind of happening here right now. So really quickly, get rid of this, the drawings here. And so what we could really see is basically over the past few months, you clearly have been still making those lower highs, as you can see just in that look. Somewhat, not really a downtrend, but just stagnating here, right? We made higher lows, lower highs, right? And then eventually you can see going into the 13th, you broke out last week. There's not this past week, the week before. You broke up. You had a decent week this week going into Tuesday, and we kind of top off, but lower highs and eventually drop down here. And we're kind of working our way back down. I think this gives you the best visual of what's happening like overall in the market. Spot or ES futures as well. SPY futures coming into that, rejecting, pushing back down. So it's important we look at that. Now, the weakest overall has been the Dow. The Dow's taken the biggest hit here, right? You know, clearly making a pennant, forming, and then breaking down for a better part of the week. Definitely seeing the most overall downside. DIA, you can look there as well, breaking down to the 100 MA. So again, the weakest area of the market has been the Dow. Like we can all agree there. Tech was looking decent. You had semiconductors heating up and then kind of slipping and falling to the end of the week. Now, one area we haven't talked a lot about here has been IWM, mid-caps. And I think mid-caps may have taken the biggest slide of all. Now, something that I've talked about a lot here on the channel over the past 2-3 weeks is mid-caps have looked really good. Now, granted, IWM, I will say that has not looked as good. And you can see you're below your clear level now. However, there's been a handful of names that have been holding up very, very well. And as we attack that in this video, we'll see a lot of those names slipped, and I think are giving more opportunities. Maybe you see more of a slip and we don't find those buyers, but we'll talk about what to be looking for here. So IWM actually dropped below your 200 daily moving average. That is a major concern in my opinion. You haven't even touched this level since January 13th, but ultimately before that, you haven't broke below it and held below it on a daily chart going all the way back to November of 2023. That's very important to understand where you're at, how you're moving now, and obviously some weakness that's stepping in because we already made a lower high, potentially making a lower low. This is concerning. So when we go and look at some of these big names everyone's talking about, and again, at some of these names, you have earnings on the week, and we can look at those earnings coming in, Monday. You have Monday after close, Hims and Hers, Tempest AI, we talked a lot about them. You also have Kava coming in on Tuesday, Home Depot, not a mid-cap, but still important to look at. What I'd be watching there. Instacart is an interesting name. We'll go into that one as well. But again, NVIDIA, large cap, Snowflake, large cap, C3 AI. Again, you have a lot of names, a lot of cloud names as well coming in here. SoundHound, absolute trash, but you guys still care about it. So again, what you're looking for, what you're looking at. This will be a pretty big week. Fubo TV also really interesting because I think they're getting acquired. But again, things I would be looking at, going into this. Again, not like the big week of like Google, Meta, Apple, but still a lot of mid caps, and then obviously NVIDIA to finish us off pretty nice. So what I'd be looking at there right now. And so when we look at those names, like again, Hims and Hers, just had a monster week. We talked about them here on the channel. And again, something that I posted on Twitter, I recommend that you guys follow if you're not following on there, so you get more of the updates, viewpoints I'm looking at here in the market, things along those lines if you guys are interested. But, something that I mentioned here on Twitter, which was really, really, really interesting, is a week ago, everyone wanted to buy. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone, you were commenting here. You were commenting on my other channel, right? Tyler, where do we buy HIMS here, right? As you were at $70. But for some reason, and this is the psychology of people wanting to buy stocks is, oh, you're dipping. I'm not interested. You're down roughly 30-40% from our highs. Not a buying opportunity. I only buy when stocks go straight up. And it's interesting how we think that way, right? And so HIMS and hers coming back down. Now they have earnings, so we'll see. We'll get better viewpoints there because, again, this is all about like their Ozempic drug. They also have some big acquisitions coming in, but interesting. Tempest AI. Again, now that you're back below $80, I'm lost a lot of interest here. Definitely not going to try to touch this. Again, above 80, long, below 80, don't want to touch it, right? Celsius, another name that's popped up over the past week. I still think it's trash, but still would be watching. So again, you've seen a lot of these names kind of switch up in the short term. Robinhood, another name that popped up, again dropping back down. So it's really interesting to see what's happening here, and especially it's interesting to see the viewpoint from retail in these situations as well. As you don't view these as opportunities anymore, you view them as risk, and it's kind of the wrong way to be looking at this. So again, very important to understand that. So going back though into large caps and what's happening first of all, and then we'll move more into mid caps of what I'm looking for as far as options and trades. NVIDIA has earnings, and NVIDIA rejected at very big levels, which we talked about. I covered in the video from yesterday. So 140.7. We'll see what happens here. That's Wednesday. This is probably the biggest thing that's going to happen for the stock market this week. I'd be watching pretty closely. I don't expect too big of a change with anything to do with semiconductors up until NVIDIA earnings. I will say everyone's expecting a beat. UBS, all these analysts are coming out with big beat expectations, overall growth, etc. Very interesting. One thing that I will add here that's interesting over the weekend that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about is Microsoft and their data center. And I'll be posting and talking about this on Twitter today, most likely. So some news that came out today, if you guys are unfamiliar, it dropped like last night. So our channel indicates that Microsoft has canceled leases in the U.S., totaling a couple hundred MWs with at least 2 private data center corporations. So basically, again, you can go look at all this news. I was reading about it. I didn't bring up the article before I made the video. So again, but you can see that basically they're scaling back on some of their data centers, which is very interesting. This is a very interesting viewpoint. I'm assuming we'll see questions about this. So we'll see what happens here. This could be a bearish viewpoint for some of the semiconductor space. I'd be watching closely, and I'll keep you guys updated there as well. But this could inspire more weakness overall in the market because if semis are weak, the NASDAQ has been very weak, right? Now, the other area of the market that I've been watching, and the names you guys have been asking about, right? Amazon, right? Google, some of these Mag 7 names that are underperforming. Now, again, you guys know I am not the type of person that's going to blindly just buy into names, right? I am not just going to say, okay, you're dipping, time to buy, right? That's just not, especially from a short-term option viewpoint. I recognize that most of you guys watching this or invested in the channel are more probably short-term traders, right? Now, if you're long-term, you guys hear my opinion there. But when it comes to this, I will say Amazon's at a massive level. You can clearly see where you're at, right? It's clear as day, right? SR flip here, 216, 215, very interesting, very big. What I will say is you have a gap fill here, you got a gap fill here, and you got a gap fill down here. Your 190, so you have a lot of gap fills, right? You still have your 100 SMA as well at 212. That's going to be your first line of defense. You have to expect a touch of that as you're getting so close. That's what I'd be looking for as you're coming down here as well, even if it's just a wick. But the biggest thing here is since your earnings, you've seen no sign of buyers, right? I want to tell you the basis of a bearish trend, even if it's short term, right? Right now, you've made nothing but lower highs. I mean, you can just, this is elementary, right? You can mark this out with ease, right? Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. I mean, nonstop, lower high, lower high, and lower high. Just continues, right? And nothing but lower lows going down. So this is the definition of bearish structure right now. Now, again, if you're a long-term investor and you're just buying and forgetting, then I think, yeah, like you add, the way I view long-term investing, guys, is you add names to the list of what you want to buy, and then you just buy them on your schedule. So if I'm buying as a long-term investor portfolio, whatever, right? I have set buy dates, right? And let's just view this like this. You can see the calendar at the bottom. So in theory, what I'm doing is I set specific buy dates here, 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 and here, right? And I have a specific amount of money that I allocate, right, to buying, right? And in theory, what I do is I split it up like a pie chart, right? I might buy 2% of Apple, 1% of Google, 10% of Nvidia, 30% of HIMS, whatever it may be, right? Whatever you want to do. But it's all based on these dates, right? As a long-term investor, I don't just say, okay, well, I'm timing a bottom now. I'm full buying my Amazon position right now. That's not, in theory, how long-term investing generally works. You want to average in. That's how you should be thinking about it. So with Amazon, Google, whatever, people asking, is this a long-term buy? I like it. Yeah, you in theory want to have longer term buys on dips rather than longer term buys at highs. That works out for the best part if when you look at the overall chart. And if you're a long term investor, go to the weekly chart and get a better viewpoint. Like, oh, yeah, on dips, it's been a good opportunity. At highs, in theory, no. The Amazon stock does indeed go up over time. Same thing with Google and all the rest of the Mag 7, right? Unless these companies start to have major fallout. So when you're viewing it from that sense, again, that's how I would view it. I think Google's interesting as well. Short term, do I think a bottom is in? No, I don't think a bottom is in for those names. There's no reason to assume that yet. Big support, though, here on Amazon. Would be tracking, would be watching. Another sector that I've been watching a lot is China, and specifically Alibaba. A lot of questions here. And again, it's the same question I'm getting. Tyler, should I be buying Alibaba right here? I also posted something on Twitter about this as well, and this is the most real representation that I've ever seen of this, of me when someone asked me, should I buy X stock after I mentioned it a week ago, and now we're up 30 to 40% on option contracts. What do I say? What do I do? I'm not going to tell, first of all, I'm not going to tell you to buy anything. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, what I'm looking at to do with the market, and that's about it. Okay. And also too, if you're interested in that and you want to see exactly what I'm buying, when I'm buying it, quick updates throughout the day, things like that, even my day trades, short-term setups as well. The Discord link is in the bio down below. You can trade with us, everything that we're doing every single day. And then you're also going to get updates from my partner. He's more behind the scenes. Jordan, if you guys are unfamiliar, he makes a daily watch list. We have daily trades. He's literally an extension of myself. So again, that link is down below if you are interested. But yeah, so I don't know how else to say this, but for instance, when Baba dipped here, no one was really that interested in buying it. This is when I got into my Baba position once again. And I'll be totally transparent. Like, we got into Baba twice here in Discord, right? We got into a shorter term trade pre-earnings, which I said was very risky. And then I got into it once again, right? So Baba calls. Let's just make sure that we can see. So this is one position. This is the second. This is the first position, right? So again, 417 pre-earnings. Those went crazy. I think they went to like $15, something ridiculous. And then this was our second position that we bought, more dated contracts as well, 718, 150 strikes for almost $11. Those positions got to highs of, I think, of $15 once again here. But these are more dated, so we want to hold these hopefully towards 150. But again, I was buying on the dip. I wasn't buying on the rip back into highs. So I still think Baba looks good despite what was happening with the rest of the market. China is clearly holding up. And my thesis so far with Baba working with Apple, increased sales, monster beat on earnings as well. So far, so good. Like, the thesis is holding up. Next target here on Baba is 153, then 161. What I'm looking for overall. This goes back to higher dated timeframes as well. So kind of what I'm looking for. And if you have questions, hopefully this is answering. And you can find a lot of this information on my Twitter for free also. So if you don't want to make a pay, I don't want people to feel like they have to pay for anything. But if you're trying to ask me questions all day, every day, you might have to. So again, what I'm looking for, what I'm doing, and hopefully this clarifies. Now, I said there was an area of the market that I thought was really weak, and I still think so. And I think that area is Bitcoin specifically. So you have a few things that are interesting here. Number one, you have Trump. If you've been unfamiliar, Trump has been pretty, and Elon has been pretty big on gold and Fort Knox. It's like the biggest conspiracy right now. Again, I wasn't really planning on going into this, but Trump basically said they're going to be doing a Fort Knox, I guess, stream or something. I have no idea, to check out the gold reserves going on there. Now, this is really interesting because, number one, you've seen Bitcoin show a lot of weakness. And people are going to say, well, if gold is missing, then in theory, Bitcoin's going to go up. Now, this is my personal opinion. You have not seen a separation between Bitcoin and the stock market. That it's not happening. It hasn't happened yet. So, personal opinion, do what you want to do. Now, again, sometimes it's a lagging indicator. We'll see what happens. But I think personally, Bitcoin has room down. I think Bitcoin loses 92, 90K. You're coming down at least to 81, 82K. But I really think you want to retest 75, 76. That's where I think you want to go. Now, I've said that for a while here on the channel. You guys can go look at my MicroStrategy video, whatever, right? One of those stocks I've been trading a lot, we've traded in Discord, has been Coin. We've literally been trading Coinbase and Discord like hotcakes, right? This has been extremely weak. We've literally dropped from $300 on the 13th all the way down to $235, the 200 daily moving average for Coinbase, which in my opinion is crazy how fast we dropped. But the stock that we really want to play is MicroStrategy, and you are just now starting to drop. You're breaking your 100 SMA for the first time going back since September 2024, right? You're getting back below that. The last time we broke below your 100 SMA, you went to your 200 SMA literally in 48 hours, not even, right? You literally dropped below the next opening candle. You went straight down to 110, 105, right? So am I saying it's going to happen immediately? I'm not going to say that. However, am I looking for downside? Yes, I would love to see the gap fill around 281, 282. But I think big selling could happen here on MicroStrategy. We've talked about the concerns there. We talked about what's happening. It looks, smells like a Ponzi. I don't know. Like, it's a lot of concerns. You even have GameStop saying you might start buying Bitcoin, and people think Bitcoin's gonna make GameStop go up. Don't ask me, right? Buying Bitcoin at highs as a company might not be the best move. But again, MicroStrategy to the downside is something that I'm watching closely as we are fast approaching our target near basically this 282 level and 280 level, what I'm looking for. So again, I'm very much looking for that as well. And crypto to continue showing weakness. We are a little bit of bounce at the end of the day on Friday in the after hours, but again, what I'm looking for. I personally believe you see a little bit of downside coming into Monday morning. It makes the most sense to me, unless there's just crazy news that's announced. You have Ukraine peace talks in the works, but I know Trump is trying to get mineral rights there as well for rare earth materials. So we'll see what happens there. But overall, I think you see a little bit of downside to start the week. The big pivot point for this coming week will be NVIDIA's earnings, because if NVIDIA reports well, if semiconductors do well, again, we've seen how that impacts the stock market. It's carried us for so long so far, and it's what I'd be watching for in the short term. So again, my viewpoint, what I'm watching. You have questions, comment down below. I appreciate all the support. All the links are down below as well. Have a good one, traders.